If you've been feeling like life has been throwing you too many curveballs lately, this episode is for you because we are diving into a simple yet powerful concept that can help you to navigate changes and transitions with more ease and grace. So, hello there, my friend. Welcome back to the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. I am your host, Rachel Hupp, and today we are diving into a topic that is close to my heart, and I'm willing to bet that it is something that you have been feeling lately too. So, have you ever felt like life is just moving too fast? Like changes are just coming at you from every direction. Maybe you are watching your kids grow up and leave the nest, or you're considering a career shift, or you're noticing those subtle or not so subtle changes in your body. So let me know in the comments if you can resonate with any of this. But if you are nodding along, then this episode is especially for you. We're going to explore the law of impermanence and how embracing change can actually be your superpower in midlife and beyond. So, stick around to the end because in the show notes, I do have a free printable for you that will help you to put these ideas into practice. All right, let's dive in. So, I want to first introduce to you or reintroduce to you, if you're familiar with it already, the law of impermanence. And this is a Buddhist doctrine that states essentially that everything in the universe is in a constant state of change and that nothing lasts forever. And it's just a really powerful concept that can transform how we navigate life. And especially, I don't know about you, I'm 44 now. Um, I'm considering all of these changes, all of these transitions that are coming about in midlife, and it's just a lot. And so recognizing that everything in the universe is in this constant state of change and flow, and that nothing lasts forever, I don't know, it just kind of normalizes it a little bit, right? And then when we think about this in yoga philosophy, this concept aligns pretty closely with aparigraha, one of the five yama or principles of social intelligence, right? So aparigraha teaches us non-attachment, non-clinging. It encourages us to hold things lightly and to let go when the time is right or when necessary. And so if you think about it, just like a river doesn't cling to its banks, just like a river doesn't cling to the rocks in its path, we too can learn to go with the flow of life's changes, to flow with life's changes without resistance. And so, all of this to say that essentially change is the one constant in our lives. It's always present, but it's almost always, or at least very often, resisted. We tend to like to stick with a status quo. We like to know, we like certainty, right? And change can be scary. And so, even though change is the one constant in our lives, we often resist it. And so, just like a river that encounters rocks, it encounters twists and turns, life presents us with these unexpected twists and turns. And so, embracing change means understanding that change is inevitable, understanding this inevitable nature, but also recognizing our own capacity to adapt and grow. So, we've covered a lot very quickly, and I want to pause for just a moment. Think about the last time that you faced a significant change in your life. Maybe it was becoming an empty nester. Maybe it was starting a new job or moving to a new city, the end of a relationship, or even a shift in your own personal beliefs. How did you handle it? Drop a comment and let me know because I would love to hear your experiences. If we come back to this analogy of the river, just as the rivers reshape their paths as they meet obstacles, right? We too have this intrinsic ability to adapt and find our way. That's part of our process. That's part of our journey, right? To trust ourselves, to know our core values, to know where we want to go. And even when obstacles come in our way, because we know our strong why, because we know the reason behind our values, it helps us to adapt and go with the flow. So, by acknowledging that every rock or challenge is an opportunity for growth and understanding, we align ourselves with the natural law of impermanence. So, it's not the rock that defines the river, right? Think about that. It's not the rock that defines the river. It's how the river flows around it. So, same with you and me, my friend. It's not the change that defines us, but it's how we choose to navigate that change. That's a pretty powerful concept, right? So I'm going to say it again. It's not the rock that defines the river, but how the river flows around that rock. It's not the change that defines us, but how we choose to navigate it. How does that resonate with you? It's pretty powerful, right? It's pretty empowering. Now, another powerful yogic concept that supports us in embracing change is santosha, or contentment. And so santosha invites us to find peace and satisfaction in the present moment, exactly as it is, exactly as it arrives, regardless of external circumstances. When we cultivate contentment, when we cultivate santosha, we are better equipped to navigate change with grace, finding contentment in the flow of life rather than resisting its natural course. And I feel like resilience is a really powerful side effect of practicing santosha, right? Because we're able to more quickly bounce back when we practice santosha, or contentment, when we accept life as it is, when we can find peace and satisfaction within ourselves, no matter what's going on in the world around us, we are better equipped to navigate change with grace and to find that resilience, that capacity to bounce back. So I'll just share a personal experience with you. This past January, as many of you know, if you've been following me for a while, but if you don't, I broke a bone in my hand. And so I was in a cast from the base of my four fingers on my left hand all the way down almost to my elbow for about 7 weeks. And that lack of mobility, oh my gosh, I had no idea how long lasting the effects from that would be. So in January, I broke my hand. And, as a yoga teacher, this, I was really worried. I teach a lot of classes, and I teach classes both online and in person. And I was filming YouTube videos pretty regularly as well. And then all of a sudden, I'm in a cast on my left arm and I can't move. And yes, I've been practicing forever. I say that I've been practicing forever. It feels like I've been practicing forever. I've been practicing for about 25 years and I'm 44 years old. So over half of my life, yoga is part of my life. So I know how to adapt. I know how to modify my own practice. But when I was unable to demonstrate these poses for my students, I can talk them through it. And that's fine. It all worked out fine. But it's still, I resisted it. I felt frustrated. At times, I even felt angry. It changed how I practiced. I'm not going to lie. It changed how I practiced because I had to adapt and modify so many things in order to meet myself where I was at, that I ended up skipping certain poses or certain favorite sequences that I used to practice regularly just because of the fact that they didn't feel the same as what they used to feel. I couldn't do them. There was this sense of grief that I couldn't do them the way I was used to being able to do them, the way I'd been able to do them my whole life. And so I was resisting this change that life, breaking my hand, had presented me with. And so I had to come back to this concept of aparigraha, right? Non-attachment. And I decided that I couldn't change this, right? This is what has happened. This is what I'm facing. So I need to approach this challenge like a river flowing around a rock. I explored new ways to teach. I deepened my verbal cueing skills. And on a personal level, I'm a big fan of the gentler and slower practices anyway, but I really reconnected with those during this time. And so I found a way to flow with the challenge instead of letting it define me. And so this experience also brought me back to this idea of santosha, contentment with what is. So instead of focusing on what I couldn't do, I could choose to focus and appreciate what I could do. I could also choose to focus on the fact that I was on the road to recovery, and that with every passing week, the chances of me getting better were better and better. right? And so as my hand healed and slowly over time, I gained more mobility back. I gained more strength back. It is October now, and I'm still not 100%. I don't know if I ever will be. I still feel some resistance about that. I still have to practice this daily, but I can realize, I can recognize, I can bring myself back to this concept that this obstacle has been an opportunity for growth. It has deepened my teaching. It has increased my empathy for students, and it has helped me to find my voice to ask for help. Because when you can't use one hand, I had to have somebody cut things up for me. I had to have somebody open jars for me. Um, I needed help with, it's a lot. It's a lot of change. It's a lot of transition. There's a lot of natural resistance to it. And it's not black and white, right? It's not like you just decide, okay, I understand. I'm going to go with the flow. And I'm going to practice contentment. And that's it. No, it's like a wave. It comes and it goes, just like the river flows. You know, some days it's faster, some days it's slower. Some days I had more resistance, some days I had less resistance. And so that is the flow of our life, my friend. And so I try to remember, and that's the practice, that awareness, that bringing ourselves back, that just like a river, just like a stream, I have the power, I have the choice to flow around obstacles and keep moving forward without letting them define me. And so, one common thread that I found in midlife and beyond is that it feels like change often accelerates. And what I mean by that is these big life transitions, right? Like your children are leaving the home, you are changing careers, our bodies transform. And so, understanding impermanence, understanding that change is normal and natural and constant, it can really help us to navigate these transitions with more grace and ease. By embracing change, we are able to bring greater awareness into our lives, to liberate ourselves from rigid expectations, and to integrate a more flexible approach to life's challenges. So, this ties directly into my aligned framework. So, A is for awareness, we've got liberation, integration, growth, and nourishment. And so when we think about this in the context of change being the only constant, right? We become more aware of the constant flow of change in our lives. We're able to more easily go with the flow because we recognize, we are aware that change is constant. We liberate ourselves, we free ourselves from the need to control everything. That could be an episode for another day because that's really, really hard. We want to feel like we know the outcome. We want to feel like we are in control. And so oftentimes in our lives, we're just not. And then integration, we integrate this new perspective through practice, through repetition into our daily lives. And then each and every change, each and every transition that we navigate, it offers us this profound opportunity for personal growth, allowing us or inviting us to cultivate new skills and to deepen our self awareness and our self understanding. And then when we flow with change rather than resist it, when we are able to ask about the opportunity rather than naturally moving into that state of resistance, when we flow rather than resist, we nourish ourselves emotionally and spiritually, which can help to reduce stress, right? It increases our capacity for joy. So I'm going to invite you to put this into practice in a more tangible way. And so the first invitation is to practice this breath of change. And so if you are in a space where it's safe to do so, find a comfortable seated position. If you are driving or on your lunch break at work, you can still do this practice. You're just going to want to make sure that you keep your eyes open and stay alert and aware to your surroundings. We're just going to take some mindful breaths. So it's not going to be a super intense meditation or anything, but I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable position wherever you are and just begin to arrive. Tune into yourself, tune into your body, tune into your mind. And you're just going to empty your breath. And then as you breathe in, I'm going to invite you to imagine yourself as a steadfast rock. You are grounded and you are present. And then as you breathe out, imagine, visualize yourself as a flowing river, right? Adaptable and free. And so we're learning to integrate that steadfastness with the going with the flow. Inhaling, feeling yourself grounded, present, steadfast like a rock. As you exhale, visualize yourself flowing as the river, adaptable and free. Inhaling, grounded. Exhaling, flowing. Inhaling, steadfast. Exhaling, free. Inhaling, present. And exhaling, adaptable. So just breathe in stability, breathe out fluidity for a couple more breaths. And so this is a really powerful practice because we are embodying both stability and flexibility. So take one more deep breath in. You're the steadfast rock, grounded and present, and then breathe it out, flowing, adaptable, free. And then just come back to a natural rhythm of your breath. How do you feel? Let me know in the comments. Check in with yourself. This practice, my friend, it helps us to integrate both qualities of aparigraha and santosha, of non-attachment, of contentment, of being and flowing, allowing you to be present while also embracing change. Because as we've talked about, the law of impermanence, change is the only constant in life. And so I want you to think about, and I have a handout that you can find in the show notes below this. You can download it and print it out. And I think it's a pretty cool graphic, but we're going to talk through it first, and then I'll tell you more about the graphic. But take a moment to reflect. In which areas of your life have you been the rock? So in other words, in what areas of your life have you been resisting change? Where have you been fighting change or not wanting change or resistant to change? Possibly eroding your spirit and your joy. And you can let me know in the comments if you want to. And now think of moments where you've been the river, flowing with change, adapting, finding new paths. And if you're in a space where you can write this down, I encourage you to just jot down the feelings, the outcomes, the lessons that are associated with each experience. And then reflect. What if the challenges and changes ahead are simply bends in your river? What if the challenges and changes ahead are simply bends in your river? How can you flow around them? How can you gather new strength? And how can you continue on your journey towards your most wildly aligned life of your dreams? And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit for a moment about what I've got for you in the show notes, this handout. It's a rock and river reflection. And just like I talked to you about here, it's just an invitation to tune inward, to take a moment to reflect. And it's an actual visual guide. You've got a river flowing, and then you've got rocks. And it's more of a visual guided journaling practice because you're going to write down literally in the rocks on this image the areas where you feel like in your life you have been that rock. Where have you been resisting change? Where have you been possibly eroding your own personal spirit, your own joy, because you have been so resistant to the change in your life? And it's all about awareness without judgment. There's no judgment here. Once we are aware, we can choose to liberate ourselves from that, and we can integrate these practices of being aware, of going with the flow. We can grow and we can nourish ourselves. But it's really cool, I think, to see this in a visual where we can say, okay, these are the rocks, these are the boulders. These are the areas where I am standing in my own way. These are the areas where I have been resisting change in my life. And then there's the river flowing through it as well. And you can jot down in the river those areas where you feel like you have been the river, flowing with change, adapting and finding new paths. And so, again, in both of these circumstances, whether you are the rock or whether you are the river, you can jot down these feelings, these outcomes, these lessons that are associated with each of these experiences, right? And so it's just a really powerful visual guide. And so I encourage you to download that in the show notes if you would like to. And as you consider this, as you practice this, just think about what if the challenges and changes ahead, like we talked about before, are simply bends in your river? How can you flow around them? How can you gather new strengths? And how can you continue on your journey towards the wildly aligned life of your dreams? So let me know. Feel free if you do this rock and river reflection, if you download the handout, feel free to take a screenshot of it and send it to me over at Instagram at I am Rachel Hupp, because I would love to see your thoughts. But also, if it's personal, I totally understand if you don't want to share it. But I do encourage you to do this exercise. And so if you're doing it on your own and you decide not to download my handout, essentially all you're going to do is from the top left corner of a sheet of paper down to the bottom right corner of your sheet of paper, you're going to draw a river. So whatever a river means to you. And then along that river in different spaces, you want to put boulders or rocks. And then as you do your journaling or your reflection, in the rocks, you're going to write down where you are resisting change, the feelings, the energy that goes along with that. And then in the river itself, you're going to jot down where you felt like you have been the river, flowing with change, adaptable, moving with grace and ease, right? And so it's a really powerful visualization to show you how you are handling the change that's in your life right now. And so, as we wrap up, my friend, remember that embracing change, it doesn't mean that you have to love every transition. It doesn't mean that you have to enjoy every challenge that comes your way. No, it's not about that. It's about developing the resilience, the flexibility to flow with life, to bounce back. Rather than constantly fighting against the current, we learn that life is an ebb and flow and we can go with the flow. So we've talked about this concept, the law of impermanence. We've talked about the yogic concepts of aparigraha and santosha, non-attachment, contentment. And we've talked about how these ideas can help us to navigate the unique challenges, the unique opportunities. We've learned that by embracing change, we can cultivate greater awareness, right? We can liberate ourselves from rigid expectations or ideas or concepts about how things should be. We've learned that we can integrate a more flexible approach to life, step by step, day by day. It's all about progress, not perfection. We can grow through the challenges, we can grow through the changes, and we can nourish our spirits, our bodies, and our minds along the way. So now I have a question for you. What is one area in your life where you can start applying the river mindset this week? And what I mean by that is, where can you let go of expectations, let go of rigidity about how things should be? And where can you be more adaptable? Where can you go with the flow? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear. I read every single one and I would love to continue this conversation with you. So before you go, don't forget to download your free Rock and River Reflection Worksheet. It is a beautiful printable guide that will help you to apply these concepts to your own life. Until next time, my friend, remember, life is like a river. Change is the only constant in life, and you have the power to be both the rock and the water, depending on the circumstances, the stage, and the season that you find yourself in. So stay grounded, flow freely, and keep aligning with your wildest self. See you next time, my friend.